Hey, so this is Mike Stapleton, and this is a real quick introduction into what a what am I calling it? A micro shelter, micro cave. There's a couple of different options there. Basically, this is it. It's about 4 feet across. It's about 8 feet deep. The height is such that it'll fit standard off-the-shelf screens like you'd find at Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot. 36 inches. So on this side, you'd put two of them, put one here, and then there'd be basically a mullion in between. There's also one that would fit on each end if you wanted. Otherwise, any of these portions could be, we can just take those, basically leave them out, and it could be nothing at all, like a wood shed, like a firewood shed. It could be that. It could not have a floor on it if we didn't want to have a floor on it. In fact, if we didn't want to have a roof on it, we could have it like a purlin type of thing, a gazebo type of thing. We could hide that and get rid of our purlins here. But anyhow, we could have something in this order, really, really simple, and it would be like kind of like that. And then it could be pergola types of beams going across. So basically it starts off, I'm just going to go through kind of the start from the bottom and work my way up. So the first step that a woodworker would do is make a couple of rails. There's two of those, and then there is a cut list for those rails that would look like this. It shows exactly what length to cut. It shows where all the templates go to mount the hardware. It discusses everything that can possibly be discussed about the rails. Then we can go and say, all right, now let's add the posts. So here's our rails that we did earlier. Now there'd be 4 posts, and I set those up there in the 90 inches-ish range. But again, it has to do with trying to make sure that we can get those off-the-shelf screen doors in there. So they're 86 inches. So here's the various shots of those posts. I lay them out, by the way, even though posts are vertical, I lay them out horizontal on the cut list because that's the way we would put them on a miter saw or in most of our power tools, and it's just easier on a horizontal landscape type screen to do it this way as well. So those show horizontally, but obviously they're going to be vertical. Again, talks about the length, where to mount the template for making mortises, and then what type of hardware to mount in each one. Next, we would add the headers, which are these 4 pieces up here. There's 2 long and there's 2 short, and they all get locked together. We can take a real quick look at how some of this stuff is starting to work now. These are all the threaded tenons, my patented threaded tenons, that work their way into various locations for various reasons, but you can see the bypass going on there, and that's what the whole patent thing is about, that there's a threaded tenon here. Some of them we put the bolts in the outer holes. Sometimes we put the bolts in the inner holes. It depends on how they're going to cross up in there. So then we go to the soffit. Now soffit normally would get put on after the rafters go on and so on, but in this case, because this is designed to be built, dry fit, assembled, and then disassembled, like maybe in a basement or in a garage or wherever. Anybody can do it. And then, or at, like in my case, I teach classes so students can build these things and then they can take them home in their Volkswagen Bug. But so in this case, we're going to put the soffit on first, so that basically closes up all of those areas once we put the rafters on. And again, there's a set of cut lists for the soffits that show exactly what to cut each one. Then there's the trusses. Now, truss is really made up of rafters. So there's 2 rafters, and then I call it a stretcher. It's kind of like in furniture, there'd be a stretcher across the bottom. So that basically is a truss. That's kind of what we've got there, right? And there's going to be 2 minimum trusses. This one does not have to be there, but the span is getting 96 inches, so it's getting a little bit long. It could be done with 2x4 purlins. Otherwise, the best bet is to just basically, I think, because these trusses are actually so simple to make, that it would just be making those. Now again, we can start to see the hardware coming into play. This is, again, my patented stuff. So they're locked in to they basically go right through the soffit. You can see how it goes. This is the soffit. This is the stretcher at the bottom. This is my threaded tenon right here, and then the GRKs are up in there. And then a decorative piece down here, that's what you're really going to see. And so this is what you're going to see when you look up. And then that whole thing just goes on up into the truss itself or into the rafter. And then up at the top, and then I'm going to recommend that these rafters be made one of two ways. One is taking a glue up of two 2x4s. You rip them. I'll explain how to do that, but we do need a planer for that because we're going to plane them down 1.25 inches to get rid of that rounded edge. But then after that, those would be glued together to create this offset here. Let me just get that offset there. So then that's what we've got as an offset, and they're actually symmetrical. In other words, there's the left and the right are exactly the same. They just cross each other, as you can see right there. They really lock in tight. And then again, here's my hardware so that we don't have to deal with like trying to hold a nut and a bolt. I'm using my threaded tenon right in here that gets permanently mounted on the back side, and then and then there's a couple of screws in there, and then what all that has to happen when these get put together is this bolt, and then this proprietary washer, rectangular washer, come into play. And then we look at the purlins. So the roof is designed primarily for a steel type of roof, like a roof, like a metal roofing, like on a post frame building or pole barn, some people still call them. But anyhow, so it's set up basically to have purlins, so it handles basically a vertical or diagonal type of sheet goods. I'll show you that in a second. I'm combining the lower purlin with really what would be a rafter, or excuse me, a fascia. So it's the same piece, it just performs two functions. And you're going to see that how the roof is going to go from here to there. And then there's the option of putting ventilation in by having a vented roof ridge, a ridge vent. And to get that venting continual on going up, there's cutouts that can be made there. Those are described in the cut list. Let's just go look at in fact, there's the rafters and shows how each of those cuts is made. Here's that notch out of here, and then here's the 45s that are going to be cut, all done with the regular compound miter saw. And then the soffit, we've got the purlins. Here we go. Okay, so in the purlins is going to be a notch that gets notched out here if ventilation is desired, and that's how that would work. So then let's just go back. We're at purlins, okay, and then the last, well, not last but not least, but then you can see that the roofing could be a couple of options. Here I'm showing metal roofing, and the length of that is such that it would be that a person, the builder buyer, can just get you can see it's 36 inches, and then roofing is basically a 36-inch coverage as well. And so it's laid out that 36-inch coverage will work out just right for the depth going back, but then also the sheets, which in our area we buy from Menards or Home Depot, well, basically Home Menards, and we can buy 12-foot sheets. And so therefore we could buy 1, 2, 3, we could buy a couple of 12-foot sheets, and we have that. The other option is I'm showing here basically what would be a shingle type of roof, and the layout of this roof system is such that the distance from here to here is 96 inches. So there's a sheet of plywood that would be put right in here. It would have to be ripped a little bit on lengthwise, but that one sheet would cover that whole side, and then shingles, regular shingles, or in this case I'm showing cedar shakes, could be put on. And then another option that I'm considering and just waiting for somebody to help me on is fabric, like a umbrella type of material, and then that would go on there as well. And let me just get rid of this real quick. All right, and then the screens, you can see how those again would go in there, and they're just going to fit like a glove, really. And then there's a mullion full length that's going to go up, and that again is going to use the hardware that my patented hardware. So there is a piece that would go in there, and then that way the mullion can just be bolted on if desired. And again, all of this will compart completely. Let's just see if we have anything else. Again, we have all these cut lists that are throughout. Everything is showing exactly how everything is going to be built. Now there's templates, and you'll see those throughout. They look like they're only two-dimensional here because that's I'm transferring those into VCarve and making them onto CNC. That's why they look the way that they do. But Then there's glue ups, and so there's another description on basically how to do the different glue ups. And the reason for this is that, like on our 96-inch headers, even though they're 96 inches, that they can be made so that let's just take a little zoom here, right? So that they're made out of this green board here, and this red one will be glued together, and that means that it's only 60 inches long. The same thing, there's a reverse version of that. That's 60 inches long. So the longest piece in the entire project is only 60 inches. So it could be taken, in fact, the reason I did this, part of it is that we can take it in our pickup truck when we take our fifth wheel RV, because I have to close the tailgate. I have a 6.5 foot bed, and they'll have no problem fitting in there. I can set one of these up in no time flat. Like on a campsite, on our RV campsites. And then again, part of that is done via the hardware, my patented hardware, that those would be placed in there and then locking those laps together. So that's how everything works. Again, thanks for checking this out, and really excited about it. If you think about the different things that this could be used for, again, screens, total screens, or it could be partial screens. Any one or more of those screens can be hinged, so they're operable. Again, we can take the screens out and make it wood wood shelter, stuff like that. But the other thing is that I've already checked into, even purchased samples of various windows that will fit into here. Nothing will fit exactly perfect on the windows, unless if someone wants to order custom windows, but off the shelf stuff, there's some stuff that could make this into a really nice, like, ice fishing shelter. It could make it a 3-season, it could make it a winter bus stop, school bus stop for kids, where you, instead of using screens, you use solid material. Again, each one of these sections can be a lightweight panel. Like if it's for the winter, just temporary use, it could be styrofoam. It could be 1 inch or 2, I mean not 1 inch, but probably a 2-inch styrofoam, something like that, or a combination of styrofoam and windows, whatever. The roof can be either cathedral, so if you're inside looking up, it could be a cathedral type roof where you see all the way up, and everything has been laid out so that even like right in here, if I just kind of hide that roofing for a second, if right in here, this whole cavity is from here to here is 48 inches, so a sheet of plywood will fit right in there, and or 2 pieces, like not ply, yeah, it could be plywood, it could be wood, it could be boards going across, or styrofoam if somebody wanted to heat the thing, or just to make it a little more comfortable, especially during the summer when you don't want that heat beating down on you. It could be styrofoamed. So there we go, and again, thank you very much, and signing out.